Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about multiple deposit expansion, what it means to be loaned up, and the monetary multiplier. First, let's start with what multiple deposit expansion means. Multiple deposit expansion is when the commercial banking system can lend or create money by a multiple of its excess reserves. Sounds complicated, right? Okay, well, let's show you with a couple examples. Let's say you get paid $1,000 from your most recent paycheck. You want to go deposit that in the bank. So you take your $1,000 paycheck and deposit it in your bank. According to law, the bank only has to keep 20% of what you deposit in its reserves. So, 20% of $1,000 is $200. Now, if you subtract that from your original paycheck, the bank has $800 of extra money that it technically does not have to keep. For a bank to keep 20% of the money that you deposit into it and keep it in its reserves is to be loaned up. Loaned up means that the bank has no excess reserves. So, since the bank is only required to keep $200 of your $1,000, the bank now has an extra $800 that it can loan out to somebody else. So let's say Picklemans needs a loan. Picklemans makes its way over to your bank and says, I need a loan. So the bank has $800 to loan out to Picklemans. Picklemans takes that $800 and deposits it in its bank. Now the process is going to repeat itself. Since Picklemans deposited $800 into bank number 2, the bank is only required to keep 20% of that $800. 20% of $800 is $160. So bank number 2 is only required to keep $160 of that $800 in its reserves. Now, if you subtract that $160 from the original deposit, the bank now has $640 extra dollars to loan out to somebody else. The bank, by keeping $160, is loaned up. So let's say Jimmy John's needed a loan. Jimmy John's is going to make its way over to bank number 2 and say, I need a loan. Bank number 2 has $640 in excess reserves that it can loan out. So, bank number 2 loans out $640 to Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's takes that loan of $640 and goes and deposits it into bank number 3. Now the bank is going to repeat the process again. So the bank, technically by law, has to only keep 20% of the deposit. So 20% of $640 is $128. The bank is going to keep $128 in order to be loaned up. Now the bank has $512 in excess reserves. The bank can now loan out $512 to another company that needs a loan. This process is going to keep repeating itself over and over again. But there is a limit to how many times this process can be completed. Now we're going to talk about the monetary multiplier. The monetary multiplier is the maximum amount of new money created by a single dollar. Now I bet you're wondering, well, how do we know what the maximum amount of new money can be created by a single dollar? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a formula for this. Now, in order to figure out the maximum amount of money that can be created by a single dollar, you take the number 1 over the required reserve ratio. So in this case, banks are required to keep 20% of deposits in their reserves. This is the required reserve ratio. So you take 1 over 0.2, which represents 20%. Once you complete this equation, you get the number 5. Now, you need to multiply 1,000 times that number that you got. And in this case, your answer will be $5,000. So, by taking 1 over the required reserve ratio of 20% and then multiplying that number by 1,000, we get $5,000. The monetary multiplier is $5,000. The maximum amount of money that can be created by a single dollar in this scenario is $5,000. So, The bank will continue to loan out money until it has reached $5,000 of new money.